held accountable. But he's behind this whole thing, and what he says in the article, that we need to get a building permit and all this other stuff, which that's ridiculous. But,
So are you saying, Thomas Gaddy, that you and your wife, Carol, have all the required permits that you need to continue renovations of this house, this old retired general's house post Civil War?
well, we think so, but maybe they don't. But you know, I don't know what's going to come of it. We got an October 23rd meeting coming up from a judge out of Nashville, Tennessee, and she's coming down here, and we're going to discuss this jurisdiction, and we're going to the annexation, that's going on that back in 1972. That really they ain't got any information on how they did that. So we're going to prove to the judge that it's ridiculous what they're saying.
All right, so just so the listener can get caught up on this point, the Gaddys are saying that their house on Coops Creek, right, not carbine shot or so from the city hall, is not in the city limits. That the city, when it expanded north and northeasterly, and not southwesterly, which is in the direction of their house, and that you're not in the city. So why is the judge coming, and what do you hope this person will find or will do?
Well, like I say, she's coming down from Nashville, and on this charges and all, and we got to prove to her that we went to the archive, and everything that we found comes out to be true, and the city has got no response on that, and they just trying to incarcerate us and put us in jail and everything for no reason.
Now, you're saying that you're outside the city limits, and therefore this entire process in Chancery Court was an abuse of process against you as a non-resident of Dunlap, Tennessee.
Right, exactly.
And this person coming down, is that a real judge, or is that some kind of administrator from the Tennessee, the Secretary of State's office? Who is this person?
He's a magistrate judge coming down, and administrator, I don't know. Really?
Well, listen, this is David Tulis, and we're talking with Thomas Gaddy and now his wife Carol, who was the both were defendants in the civil action against them, and the bid in of the states, not the state, but the bid by city government in Dunlap was to have them grant voluntarily a compulsory order to search. It was a compulsion given upon them. And because Mrs. Gaddy and her husband refused to voluntarily consent to compulsion, she was found in contempt and jailed. And again, it's an extraordinary case, and I've viewed this as, in my reporting on it, as a remarkable abuse by Judge Thomas Rusty Graham in Chancery, who effectively took upon himself the grievance of the city to find her in contempt, even though there was no authority for him with which to do that. So, Carol, can you tell my listener a little bit more about this question about the administrative law judge coming to check on the records? How did you get that process launched? What is that magistrate's authority, and what do you hope to find or verify in that visit?
Well, David, this goes back 2 years. We raised the issue of jurisdiction, and the law says when the issue of jurisdiction is raised, that issue must be settled before any court case can move forward, before any orders are signed by a judge. In the absence of jurisdiction, all orders, contempt orders, and everything that takes place in that hearing becomes nullified, as if it never existed. And since we personally have had levied against us by the previous judge who recused himself a year ago on this case, thousands of dollars in contempt of court fines. Now, they levied all that in threat, and it's in a matter of the court record, before they decided to, which the city attorney has been filing for over a year, to especially incarcerate me, but that we both needed to go to jail in order to get our attention. What that means from his bully platform is we need to be locked up to teach us a lesson, not to challenge the powers that be, the almighty corporation called Dunlap. And we have stood on our constitutional rights. And I want to call people's attention, if they have not read their Tennessee Constitution, we have an excellent Constitution over our heads. And in Article 1 of the Declaration of Rights, which is telling we the people what our rights are within this state, and under Section 2, it tells us that non-resistance to arbitrary government power is slavish and absurd. And those are the exact words.
And destructive of the good and happiness of mankind in general.
Amen. That's it, David. You're right. You finished that perfectly. But we have stood in court before Chancellor Stewart when this case began. We are going on, David, in a few months, we will be 3 years in this. And the jurisdiction issue has been totally ignored by the court, by City Attorney Greer, and of course, all involved. Because when in our research through the Department of State, the Secretary of State's office, legal archives, we've got proofs in writing, documentation. They could find nothing of any legal annexation that ever took place in August of 1972. Now, we didn't buy our property until 97. But in the research, and what triggered that research is the actual city charter of Dunlap that was online in the year 2015. And a friend read the legal description and said, well, wait a minute, the southeast boundary corner of the city of Dunlap ends at the center of Coops Creek. They have no authority over your property. So we followed through. And of course, the next time in court, they did not prove. These lawyers can stand in the courtroom and whatever they say, the judge just receives it as like it's the truth and the gospel, and they are lying. They could be lying through their teeth, not supporting what they say with any documentation. Now, everything we have said in this case, we have completely supported with legal documentation. These are the legal archives search in the state of Tennessee, and they had absolutely no evidence that an annexation ever occurred in 1972. So then we turn to the city and we say, give us some proofs. They have not produced any proofs. So we were able to, thanks to some of our great General Assembly, state legislature, and
Frank Nicely, Senator.
Frank Nicely and May Beavers drove this for us. And we're so grateful that
Governor candidate May Beavers,
even though they were not our direct representative, because at the time we couldn't get meetings. We couldn't obtain meetings with our direct representative, May Beavers, and Frank Nicely gave us a meeting. And we showed him our proofs. And he said, wait a minute, I'm holding a letter here from the Secretary of State's office that says this city has no authority over this people. And he said, so naturally, I believe he wrote the bill. So this became law. And the people of Tennessee don't know this new law exists. And what it says, to summarize simply, is if a property owner challenges a municipality over jurisdiction that they have never been annexed, that city has to pay them back all their city property taxes for 44 years plus interest.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Carol Gaddy. Things are getting spicy for the town of Dunlap. David Tulis, I've got some important messages. Hang on.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million.